Firstly, I have to apologise. Most of the action takes place in Wales, so I have to apologise to everyone for my pronunciation of all things Welsh and my lack of Welsh accent. I'm from Gloucester, just live with it. Setting the scene, Grint and Teams 235 and 236 are investigating, among other things, the body of a dinosaur which has been washed up in a small Welsh town. The town itself and the surrounding areas are about to be filled with dinosaurs, and they're expecting to be attacked at any moment. Grint has been looking for a big public library, somewhere they can fall back to should things get a bit hairy, as we all know they will. 2 readings. Yesterday's was identifying and setting up the library for attack. And this second one is Luke, Jane, Rossi and Cole herding people towards the library. The Welsh word for library is Llwfrgell. Thank you. Helen Dawson spent a long time getting that right for me. Apparently the secret is to aim for a splashy sound behind your front teeth. Whether I've been successful or not, I don't know. But they are looking for the people, rounding them up and heading them back towards the Llwfrgell. So, it was obvious that somehow word had already spread because the streets seemed strangely deserted for the time of day. On their way to the library, Luke and Jane were joined by a small number of mystified but curious citizens. Most were pensioners who seemed to be regarding this as some new form of council-provided entertainment, and would there be biscuits? They'd also managed to scoop up 2 or 3 youngish children who were almost certainly going to regret bunking off school before the day was out. Jane was festooned with a great deal of other people shopping, and Luke was carrying a small dog. Emerging into the town square from Milk Street, he was about to fulfill the unfamiliar function of lollipop lady and shepherd his charges safely across the road when a police car swept past with Rossi on the loudspeaker. His voice bounced around the square. People of Llwfrgell, attention, people of Llwfrgell, bringing massive confusion to the townspeople, none of whom had any idea why they would be addressed as people of library. And was this yet another attempt at subjugation by the perfidious English? Fortunately, most of their consternation manifested itself as aimless confusion, which made it easy for Luke and Jane to chivvy them library words. A trickle of people were already climbing the steps. The car swept round the square again, in the opposite direction this time. Jane had the definite impression Rossi was enjoying himself. People of Llwfrgell, clear the streets. Clear the streets. Return to your homes and lock all your doors and windows. If you cannot return home, then make your way quickly and quietly to the library. In the town square, he added helpfully, for those who might not be familiar with the layout of their own town. His voice dopplered back along Milk Street. People of Llwfrgell. Luke and Jane entered the Llwfrgell to find Grint surveying his resources. A group of very non-time police officers stood before him in a ragged line, or clump possibly. And this, said Miss Nibbs proudly, is my little team, our senior library assistant, Lily, together with Tilly, Dilly, and Millie, said Grint, beginning to get the hang of this. Miss Nibbs frowned. No, Kerris. Back behind the shelving, Hanson appeared to have developed a very nasty cough. As Grint said afterwards, when he'd got his breath back, It was around about this point that he began to feel the day might be getting away from him somewhat. Nevertheless, he frowned in his best time police manner and surveyed this unfortunately all too feminine workforce. And this is Jason and Yanto, both of whom are here this week on work experience. Jason and Yanto appear to be undergoing growth spurts, sadly without the corresponding filling out, and Grint had an overwhelming impression of two long-haired pencils. Wisely abandoning his first impulse, which had been to bark instructions directly to his newly acquired forces, he turned to Miss Nibbs, who was still beaming proudly at him. He pointed. Right then, the first barricade is being erected outside the front doors, top of the steps between those two pillars. Anyone getting through those will have to dogleg pretty sharply to get into that bit there. The public workroom and non-fiction, translated Miss Nibbs. Our fallback position will be, he pointed, reference. Should we need to make a quick exit, we'll go through fiction. Miss Nibbs nodded encouragingly, to the garage at the back of the building and regroup there. Do these shelves move? They do indeed, cried Miss Nibbs. They're all on wheels. Obviously, health and safety regulations mandate all the books should be removed first. Grint surveyed the Hampton Court maze of shelving around him, eyed Miss Nibbs shrewdly and asked, and are they? Removed, I mean. Of course not, said Miss Nibbs. That would take hours. Right, these shelves will form the core of our first barricade. Lachlan, reinforce each shelf with as many books as you can find. Boxes of paper, records, anything. I want a solid barrier, no gaps. If the reptiles can't see us, then they might go elsewhere. Brace with desks and furniture. Do these photocopiers move? He indicated the two massive machines set aside for public use. They're also on wheels, yes. Good. Parish, get these big boys shifted. They'll be our second line of defence. On it, said Luke, still apparently unaware of the correct response to an order from a senior officer. Fire extinguishers, suggested Jane. Grint frowned. I don't think dinosaurs breathe fire, do they? I mean, said Jane, blushing, extinguishers squirt foam, which they won't like at all, and they're heavy. If we can manage to drop one on their heads, they probably won't be getting back up again. I remember when I was in training, you yourself told us that anything can be used as a weapon, sir. Good thinking. Miss Nibbs, can you send someone to go through the building, bring all the extinguishers back here and line them up over there against the wall? Of course. Keris. She gestured and Keris set off at an enthusiastic gallop. No running in the library, Keris, I've told you before. Sorry, Miss Nibbs. Keris continued at a pace only fractionally slower than an enthusiastic gallop. Grint continued, and Lachlan, keep trying to get hold of Tucker. I want to know what's going on elsewhere. Jane departed. Grint turned back to his right-hand librarian. While I think of it, do you have a workplace first aider? Miss Nibbs beckoned. Tilly, dear, could you pop over here for a minute, please? Gather all the first aid kits, said Grint, and store them next to the fire extinguishers. You other two, Dilly and Lily, you're on official lookout. One at the front windows and one in the conference room. Do you have any means of... Both girls proudly flourished the very latest models of mobile communication. Grint nodded. Go. They went. Over by the front doors, Luke, Jason and Yanto were manhandling the big photocopiers into a position some 10 feet behind the front doors. They would thus have 3 lines of defence: the outside barricade between the pillars, the hefty wooden front doors themselves, and, 10 feet back from them, the 2 photocopiers, from behind which they could fire on anything without a current library card. Luke took a moment to ease his back. I didn't know these old things still existed. Be grateful for a parsimonious council who never replace anything under 100 years old, unless it relates directly to their prestige or comfort, said Miss Nibbs tartly, and darted away. That's me told, muttered Luke. Kerris, who had completed gathering fire extinguishers, was now emptying the vending machines. Piles of crisps, chocolate and biscuits were stacked neatly against the wall, along with 2 apples and a very wary-looking banana. Open up the cafe, ordered Miss Nibbs, striding through non-fiction rather in the manner of those bringing the good news from Aix to Ghent. Bring everything you can find, especially the kettles and coffee. It was very apparent that Miss Nibbs was enthusiastically envisaging a siege comparable in length to that of the Trojan War. Regarding Lieutenant Grint through her spectacles, she made an announcement. I shall call in the fleet, she declared. In the middle of single-handedly heaving a massive run of shelving into position, Grint paused. How close to the sea were they, for heaven's sake? I'm sorry. Our mobile libraries, the pride of the service. Mobile libraries, queried Grint, possibly envisaging a pair of little vans tootling happily along the country lanes with a box of paperbacks on board. The fleet, declared Miss Nibbs again. We have 6 mobiles altogether. Nell Gwyn and Bookie Mug Bookface are small Lutons that can cope with the narrow lanes and steep hills. They can bring people in from remote farms and drop them off at the nearest schools and fire stations. The other 3, Henry Tudor, Shirley Bassey and Owen Glendower, trundle from village to farm and back to village. What sort of size are they? Said Grint doubtfully. Miss Nibbs assumed the expression of Boudica, looking down on helpless Colchester. 7.5 tonners. Grint was struck with an idea. Will they fit down the alleyway at the side of the building? It would be a tight squeeze. All the better. Call them in. We'll get them to park nose to tail in the alleyway. That'll go a long way towards protecting those big glass windows. And then, continued Miss Nibbs, with the air of one working up to her big moment, then there's the Red Dragon. About to heave, Grint paused again. The what? The Red Dragon, the supermobile. And where does the supermobile go? She really had a very sweet smile. Wherever it likes, Dunnifank. Grint grinned greatly. Call them in.
Thank you very much.